A cordial greeting. Today is Friday, October 24, 2025. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia. At the time of recording this video, it is 6:15 in the morning, local time in the Caribbean, where we continue monitoring Tropical Storm Melissa, which is stationary just east and southeast of Jamaica. Over the next 7 days, dangerous conditions are expected across parts of the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, the southern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos, because this tropical cyclone will move extremely slowly through the area, bringing hazardous conditions to the Caribbean. And before giving details on the track and intensity forecast and on the effects anticipated in relation to wind and rain, I would like to take a few minutes to read key messages shared by the National Hurricane Center in the 5 a.m. advisory. First, for Jamaica, they note that due to Melissa's slow motion, the risk continues to increase for a prolonged multi-day period with potentially damaging winds, heavy rainfall that could cause life-threatening flash flooding and numerous landslides, as well as storm surge. Preparations to protect life and property should be completed as soon as possible, since strong winds and rainfall could begin in Jamaica later today or on Saturday. In addition, for Haiti they note that heavy rainfall will cause catastrophic flash flooding and landslides in southwestern Haiti from this weekend into early next week. Extensive damage to roads and buildings is expected, which could leave communities isolated for a prolonged period. This is a life-threatening situation, so immediate measures should be taken to protect life and property. Strong winds could also persist for a day or more over Haiti's Tiburon Peninsula. And for the Dominican Republic and eastern Cuba, they note that heavy rainfall could also cause significant flash flooding and landslides in southern Dominican Republic, and that people in Cuba should monitor the progress of Melissa, since the risk of heavy rainfall, damaging winds, and storm surge appears to be increasing. So I wanted to share those words so you can see how serious the situation is with Tropical Storm Melissa. If we look at the infrared satellite animation, we can see that the system has moved very little during the last night and that soon new heavy showers will begin to move over the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and it is also evident that wind shear continues to affect the circulation. And if we zoom in a bit on the infrared satellite animation, the center of circulation is located approximately in this area, so it is evident that the area of heavier rain and stronger winds remains to the right of the circulation. Now then, starting tonight or Saturday, conditions will begin to become very favorable for the tropical storm to rapidly strengthen into a powerful major hurricane, when it begins to move toward Jamaica, or just south of the island on a track that will take it between 4 to 5 days. See the latest model track projections, which although we still have some spread among different solutions, in general all project that starting Saturday afternoon it will begin to move westward, either just south of the island or over Jamaica, and in about 4 to 5 days it will then take a turn to the northeast until eventually moving over eastern Cuba, the southern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos. And note that for the Dominican Republic and Haiti, direct impact from the circulation center is not expected. However, as I mentioned, southerly flow will bring heavy showers across the area, and, according to the ensemble of different model members, confidence continues to increase that the system will pass just south of or over Jamaica, and then over eastern Cuba and the southern Bahamas, where the probabilities of direct impact have risen to moderate to high levels. In addition, note that for the United States, Mexico, and Central America, there is no risk of impact from this tropical cyclone, so the effects will be for the eastern half of Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, the southern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos. Unfortunately, and as we had mentioned in recent days, if Tropical Storm Melissa moves south of Jamaica, it will encounter sea surface temperatures between 30 and 31 degrees Celsius with a high ocean heat content at depth that can help the system undergo extraordinary strengthening and remain strong as it approaches Cuba, and in addition to exceptionally favorable ocean conditions. Models also project that in about 5 days the atmospheric conditions will be extremely favorable with low wind shear and upper-level divergence toward the northeast quadrant of the circulation, which will provide good ventilation for the system to strengthen into a Category 4 hurricane. Now then, its maximum intensity over the coming days will largely depend on how close it passes to Jamaica, because, for example, if it manages to maintain a track over the island, Jamaica's geography can somewhat limit its strengthening. However, if it remains just south of the island, it could strengthen into a powerful Category 4 hurricane. This is why we see some spread among the intensity-specialized models. But the vast majority agree that in approximately 24 hours, a rapid strengthening process will begin, and by Sunday afternoon or evening it is likely that we will have a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane, and in about 4 to 5 days, the models that have a track just south of Jamaica strengthen it into a Category 4 hurricane. And let's look at some scenarios shown by the intensity models. For example, we have a model that has a Category 5 hurricane passing very close to the south of Jamaica and leaving the strongest part of the cyclone over the island. And in this scenario, in which the center remains over Caribbean waters, significant strengthening may occur, and therefore we cannot rule out its strengthening into a Category 5 hurricane. In fact, a track very close to, but just south of, Jamaica is the worst-case scenario for the island because the strongest quadrant, the northeast, would pass over the island. Under this event, Jamaica would face the worst cyclone in its history. But in other scenarios, as another model shows us, the center could move over land, which would somewhat limit strengthening. In this case, it has a Category 3 hurricane moving into Jamaica during Sunday morning. Another model also has a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane approaching eastern Jamaica on Sunday afternoon. And the WRF model has a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane moving in just south of the city of Kingston during the early hours of Sunday morning. Now then, see the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, which keeps the system stationary at least through Saturday night, and it is not until Saturday that they forecast it will strengthen into a Category 1 hurricane, and from Saturday through Monday, rapidly strengthening into a Category 4 hurricane when it is located just south of the island of Jamaica. And if the National Hurricane Center's forecast is fulfilled, in which the circulation center remains over the Caribbean Sea without moving over Jamaica, then the system could remain a Category 4 hurricane until eventually reaching Cuba. Remember that any variation with a track over Jamaica could slightly limit the maximum intensity and eventually represent a better scenario for eastern Cuba. And now let's look at some of the effects projected by different scenarios, beginning with the European model projection, which at the moment has the southernmost track for future Hurricane Melissa and, in fact, takes longer to send the system over Jamaica. However, in the latest run, it shows us a Category 4 or Category 5 hurricane with wind gusts of over 300 km per hour, over 186 miles per hour, affecting all of Jamaica between Wednesday and Thursday, then moving over eastern Cuba for Thursday and over the southern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos between Thursday night and Friday. Under this scenario, Jamaica, eastern Cuba, the Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos would all receive the impact of a Category 4 hurricane, potentially causing a catastrophe across the region. And not only will wind be a major problem, the very slow forward motion will cause heavy rainfall across all of Jamaica and eastern Cuba. According to the latest projections, Jamaica could accumulate between 500 and 700 millimeters, 20 to 28 inches, of rain over the next 7 days, and for eastern Cuba and the southern Bahamas between 200 and 400 millimeters, 8 to 16 inches. On the other hand, we have the American model scenario, which maintains a track quite far to the east. In this case, it does not even take the circulation center over Jamaica, but I must mention that the American model has had the worst projection with this tropical cyclone. What I mean is that it is very unlikely that this will be the track, and the higher probabilities are that it will pass south of Jamaica or over the island and over eastern Cuba. In the American model scenario, hurricane force winds would remain to the east of Jamaica. However, they would affect parts of eastern Cuba and western Haiti and eventually move over the Turks and Caicos. And of course, with a track farther to the right, the maximum rainfall totals would remain to the east of Jamaica, over parts of southwestern Haiti and eastern Cuba, with rainfall accumulations between 500 and 800 millimeters, 20 to 32 inches, over the next 5 days, and for the southern half of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, rainfall accumulations between 300 and 500 millimeters, 12 to 20 inches. And we also have the German model projection. In this case, it has a movement over eastern Jamaica between Monday and Tuesday and then moving to the northeast. Under this scenario, hurricane force winds would affect parts of southwestern Haiti and eastern Jamaica, and then eastern Cuba and the southern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos between Wednesday and Thursday. Well, that's all for the forecast update. In summary, I can tell you that rainy days and flooding are expected across the Dominican Republic and Haiti at least through Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, while everything seems to indicate that the circulation center would pass just south of or over Jamaica, leaving the strongest winds over the island. So preparations to face one of the most intense hurricanes in history should be completed during the day today. Then, between Wednesday and Thursday, it would be crossing eastern Cuba, potentially as a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane, and then over the southern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. Here at Hurricane Info, I will continue to closely monitor the progress of dangerous Cyclone Melissa and will record another update during the afternoon today. So before I go, I wanted to ask you to share this video with friends and acquaintances so the information reaches them, and also to ask you to give this video a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell so you receive notifications when I record new videos. Well, with that I say goodbye. So, see you this afternoon.